Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. It is the last Tuesday of September in 2023. That means we are entering the final quarter, like a football game or a basketball game. So if you've got something that you want to get done in 2023, you got another quarter. You can do a lot in a quarter. I just want to start the show with that. Welcome. I'm excited to be with you. There's a lot to talk about. There's some good news in the world of sports. If you happen to be a fan of Houston teams, the Texans got their first win on the road, 37-17 against Jacksonville. The Houston Astros broke their losing streak, won a big game last night in Seattle against the Mariners. They are a game and a half ahead of the Mariners for the final wild card spot. Listen, if the Astros win this series against the Mariners, they take care of their own fate. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to let you hear from Dusty and DeMeco and some of the players. But first, as always, I want you to know, hear from some people who help us do this work each and every week. Our good friends over at I Love Jinka. It is the fall, and it's never too soon to shore up your immune system, right? And so one of the things that you can do is you can get some I Love Jinka. You can get it in the paste form. You can get it in powder, or you can get it in capsules. If you happen to be in Texas near an HEB store, you can get it at HEB. If you are not, go to ilovejinka.com. You can get it from their website. Here's what you should look for and where you should look if you go into an HEB store.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department, the probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at a Jinka sale. Look at that. Jinka.
Look at that, Jinka. It's great to help with inflammation. I've heard some people that have had gout who had relief from taking the Jinka. Of course, the key super powerful ingredient, along with the other roots and herbs, is turmeric. It's a high grade of turmeric that really helps. It makes a difference. So if you've got achy joints, you've got maybe some respiration stuff, maybe your A1C is high, it has been known to help a lot of those different things. So check it out, check it out, check it out. And it's that time of year. Well, listen, it's always a good time for Kimmy Treats. And I had someone tell me before, I don't know if people, Kim, if people know that Kimmy Treats is a Kim Y. Davis product. Kimmy Treats is my other company. It is. And so Kimmy Treats can be found currently at Sunshines if you are in Houston. We are expanding hopefully soon to be able to announce another location that, in a different area that people can get their Kimmy Treats. But hey, listen, you can always get them online. It's vegan popcorn. It's the Kimmy bars. It's the body butter. Here is what you can expect. 3 flavors of popcorn, maybe a 4th one for the holiday, but get your Kimmy Treats today. Hey, listen, there's a lot of sports to get to today. There's some other stuff that I want to talk about. I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to remind you again later about being registered to vote. All right. Every election is important, is important. It seems like as we go on, they become more and more important. So, here, I never tell you who to vote for, but I am going to strongly encourage you to get registered to vote. And if you are already registered, go out and help 5 other people get registered. And then understand the issues, the policies, the people. Vote your values. And speaking of politics, the government is close to a shutdown because, well, the people that we pay to represent us in Congress are not getting the job done. Doesn't matter who you vote for, they all work for all of us. Call your congressperson. I don't care what city or state you live in, and just say, hey, listen, I need you to get to pass a spending bill. I need you to pass a budget so that the government doesn't shut down, so that all the people who work for the government are not without pay. That's important. I will remind you again about that later. So we've got to stay vigilant, and we also have to stay engaged and active. Engaged and active is what the Houston Texans have been, right? It is week 4 of the NFL season. They started out 0-2, and now they are 1-2. They got their first win of the season, their first win of the DeMeco Ryans era in Jacksonville on the road this past Sunday. They played a great game. It wasn't perfect. There are things that they can improve on, but all 3 phases of the game was really kind of fun to watch. And so here is head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about what it meant really to get that first win.
Right. It's very important to get the first win so you know what it feels like. You know how it looks to win, and you can go back through, see what you did throughout the week, how you prepared throughout the week, how you practiced, right, how you studied. And that's if you play winning football throughout the week, right, in your preparation, and you can play winning football on Sunday. So that's what I want our guys to see, like the blueprint of what it takes to win. It's hard to win in this league. It's tough each and every week, no matter who you play against. It's tough to win, but if you put the work in like our guys did, then you can, enjoy the fruits of your labor. You have to put the work in. You can't shortchange the process.
Doesn't that sound like a webinar for a job, or for weekend throughout the week? If you can't expect to win if you're not putting in the work. That's why I love sports, right? Because it speaks to us not just about what happens on the gridiron, on the basketball court, on the baseball diamond. It is really what we all have to do every day in life. You got to put in the work. You've got to be consistent. You got to keep working at it, because you're not going to win on Sunday or at the end of the month or the first of the month or whatever your day is for you if you haven't put in the work to get to that point. I love it. I love what sports reminds us about our own journey. So that's DeMeco talking about getting the team getting its first win. It was big. Now they come home, they play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. The team will also be honoring JJ Watt. He will go in the Ring of Honor, the third person to go in the Texans Ring of Honor. The other 2, Bob McNair, the founder of this organization, of this team, and Andre Johnson. So it's going to be a big day at NRG Stadium on Sunday, and the Texans will be trying to get their first home win in front of their home crowd in NRG Stadium since December of 2021. Yes, they have not won in the building since December of 2021. So hopefully they'll be able to get that done this weekend. Here's DeMeco Ryans talking about the offensive line. If you follow this show or any of the things that I do, you've heard me say the offensive line is a concern. It is a concern. But this week, they showed up. They protected CJ Stroud. There were no quarterback sacks. It was a reminder that obviously this protection up front effort is not just about the O-line. But here's head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about the protection that the CJ got on Sunday.
Yeah, with the protection, it was, again, this group effort from up front, all 5 offensive line, but it's also the tight ends, the backs, it's the quarterback. Everybody helps out in protection. So it's not just the offensive line. The offensive line did a really great job, but thought our backs stepped up. They protected well. CJ did a very good job of delivering the ball on time, getting it out quick, speeding up his process when he needed to speed it up versus pressure. So it was a team effort when it came to the protection. But credit to the O-line. They did a really nice job.
We talk about CJ Stroud, and we're reminded each week why this young man was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. He just keeps getting better. He learns from stuff. Coach Ryan says he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's a sponge. He's not just looking at game film and asking questions. He's scouring YouTube to look at his players and see what they did, before they got here to the Texans, so he can see, maybe he can do this or he can do that. It's fun to watch. It's fun to listen to this young man and to see that the person he is. Of course, after 3 weeks, there are all kinds of stats. There's a stat of, how he stacked up in the first 3 weeks. And according to the talent he has around him, the offensive line, turnovers. He has not thrown any interceptions. This past week, he was not sacked for the first time. He was sacked, I think 11 times through the first 2 games of the season, and he has connected and thrown touchdowns. Of course, the red zone is an area that the Texans are still working to improve in, but there's improvement each week. There's stuff to build on, and that's what's pretty exciting. One of the things we talked about last week defensively with this team, which didn't look great defensively at home against the Colts, was the lack of communication and those challenges. When Jimmie Ward was back this week, of course, the communication starts with the Mike linebacker, the person wearing the green dot, and that was Henry To'odo. Really, I always mess his name up. The rookie, I'm going to say freshman linebacker out of Alabama, but Jimmie Ward was back in the game this week. He was out because of injury. Having him back was a huge bonus. They're still without starting safety Jalen Petrie, one of the starting cornerbacks in Derek Stingley. They've got a lot of injuries, but the communication this week was key. And here's Jimmie Ward talking about that communication.
Really, I just try to help much as possible. Try to be that extra communication. Try to echo the calls. I feel like Henry did a great job out there, and just me being out there, just telling everybody, man, we got to communicate. This is just like the classroom. And if you wouldn't be in the NFL if you didn't make an A+. And one thing about this test on Sunday, Mondays, or Thursdays, it's open notebook. It's an open book test, so everybody can help each other. We can all talk out there. If you see something, talk about it.
If you see something, talk about it. It's an open book test. Let me see. Communication, pretty important, right? In everything that we do. It's the same in football. The communication is key. You got to know where people are. We got to make sure that we're hearing the right thing, that we're approaching, we're making the right call, that we're all approaching it. And okay, this is the play. I'm not thinking I heard one thing where you said something else. And so communication and understanding the communication style of the person who's making that call. Like Jimmy said, he was helping out Henry. He did a great job with the call. Usually that person making the calls is Denzel Perriman, a veteran who's just been a really, a real reliable and great linebacker in this league. His challenge has been staying healthy. He was out this week because he's hurt. He's injured. So will he be back this week? They don't even begin to talk about injuries until Wednesday when they show up. So we'll see what's happening with him if he's back. But when they say next man up, this team has really, really experienced it. And as you can see, if you watch games around the league, guys are getting hurt. It's football, and they're getting hurt, and they seem to be getting hurt at a bigger clip this year than normal. But at any rate, communication is really key. Tank Dell had a breakout game. He ended up with 145 receiving yards, a career day for him. He had a touchdown. He was playing in front of his family and friends because he's from Florida, so that made it even more special for him. But you won't believe what his younger brother asked him after the game. Here's Tank Dell talking about playing in front of family and friends.
My little brother kind of made me mad though, because after the game, he was like, I came up to him, he was like, "Where's CJ at?" I'm like, "Yo, you don't see me right here?" He like, "Where's CJ and Will at?" I'm like, "I'm right here, yo. Like, what you doing?" But nah, it was special. That man, like I told you before, man, he go on YouTube every day and search up my name and try to look up stuff that I don't even see. Like, he'll send me stuff to my phone off my mom's phone that I never seen. I'm like, yo, how are you finding all this? But nah, it was good. Just having my family there, knowing they was there in the stands, and God provided me the opportunity to go out there and do what I did. So it was a special moment.
So the person he's talking about obviously is CJ Stroud, who's looking on YouTube and finding stuff and said, "Look, man, I saw when you did this." Right? That's the kind of student of the game. That's the kind of preparation that CJ puts in. You talk about going above and beyond. And when you listen to him, we talk to him on Wednesdays. You listen to him talk about really his journey and that his purpose is much bigger than football. And I think initially when he came into the league and as we talked to him and, people were like, he is talking about this whole bigger purpose, man of God thing, but he's clear about who he is and his journey. And I think now people, as you hear him, he even said last week, I know y'all hear me, like, yeah, he's talking about God. He said, but it's a part of everything. It's a part of everything I do. It's not a stick. That's not his word. That's mine. And so he is being true to who he is. And what I like about it is whatever that is, whoever you are, you just got to be true to it. Be true to that. Stand like they say, 10 toes down in it, and continue to build. But that was Tank talking about CJ. So here is Blake Cashman, linebacker, who was busy and active on Sunday, right? He recovered a fumble. He had an interception. Here is Cashman talking about that interception.
So we actually worked those concepts a lot throughout the week. So, hats off to our coaches for understanding and knowing what, Jacksonville was going to throw at us. But it was a fire zone pressure, and my key was a running back. And depending on which side he released to is which way I was going to open up, and that took my eyes to the number 2 receiver, which was Agnew in the slot. And the running back kind of chipped release, checked through the line of scrimmage. So my eyes went to Agnew, and I seen kind of outside stemmed, and I was trying to bracket him with Graylin Arnold. And then I actually should have played that better and kept my eyes on Agnew, but I knew with the pressure the ball had to come out soon, so I kind of kept 2 peeks back at the quarterback. And I seen Agnew break in on a dig, so I just planted off my right foot and was able to make a good play on the ball. And I think Jonathan Grenard got in there and create some pressure to force that throw. So everyone just doing their job and allowing me to make that opportunity and get that pick.
So that was Blake Cashman. It was very football-y, right? It was a very football-y kind of thing to hear. But listen, I say that because we're going to be having a live Chalk Talk, hopefully in November, working on securing a location now where you can come and watch a game with me. It's going to be a Texans road game. So we'll watch a game here locally, working on securing a venue now. We'll have some food. We'll have some beverages throughout the game. You can get a live Chalk Talk. And when you hear that kind of thing, or when you see that, I'll be able to help you understand what's happening. It'll be in a fun way. We'll do a little bit of networking. We'll have some cool stuff at the timeouts. As if you're interested in joining me, make sure that you send me an email or leave me a note in the comments. But definitely stay tuned, because working on having a live Chalk Talk, and can't wait to my layout's a little different here. Can't wait to have you guys be a part of that. So that was Blake Cashman talking about really how he was able to do what he did on Sunday. One of the most, exciting plays on Sunday. There were some good things because they won, but it was when fullback Andrew Beck took a kickoff return and ran it all the way back for a touchdown. It was unlikely and unexpected. And here, I'm going to let you hear from these 3 guys, these 3 players, about what they saw, when they were watching that play unfold, what they saw. We'll start with Jimmie Ward.
Oh man, it was crazy. It was one of the moments where you just like, because it was like 2 guys. I want to say him, and I can't remember who was back there. Was it Motor? Who was back there with him? Motor? And then both of them kind of tried to catch the ball, and then it rolled down his chest, and I was like, and then he picked it up and he broke the tackle. I was like, and then he broke another tackle. I was like, and then he broke another tackle. I was like, he broke another. I was like, he finished score, and he scored. So hopefully I see that on ESPN Top 10. It was one of those moments that you can't believe it happened, and that was one of the craziest plays I ever seen in the NFL since I've been in the league. And it's been 10 years since I've been in the league. It's crazy.
First, I saw Beck backing up for the ball, so I'm like, what's going on? I saw Boone running up to the ball, and Beck was backing up. I'm like, something crazy about to happen. But then once Beck did grab the ball, at first I'm thinking, because it was supposed to be a return to the left, so I'm thinking, Beck just about to go straight and get down. He had something else in plan, man. Beck bounced the ball out, stiff on one person, jumped over another person, outran another person. I'm like, bro, where's this coming from? I actually ran all the way to the end zone. I'm surprised they didn't call a flag. If they did, I don't know. I don't remember. But I for sure ran all the way to the end zone, man. I slapped him on his head a couple times, but that was great to see, man. Beck, that was special, so it was good.
It definitely was a moment, right, when you're watching that. game. I didn't travel to Jacksonville. I'm watching that game and I'm going, what? And so you replay it and you're like, this is indicative of what this team did on Sunday. And so Blake Cashman, who was actually a part of coverage, right? A part of the special team unit that was on the field. Blake Cashman gave kind of he broke down what he saw and initially started with he didn't really know what was happening.
I was stoked, and I've never seen a kickoff return like that. But I was actually on the ground because my blocking assignment, he had cut all the way over from the back side to the front side of the return. And so I hit him, and a bunch of bodies went down, and I was down by the numbers. And I just heard the crowd going nuts, and bodies flowing like to the far side of the field, like towards our sideline. I'm like, what is going on? Did Boom bounce it outside? Because it was supposed to be a return up more towards the left. And I get off the ground, I start running. I still don't know who has the ball. I just see a bunch of bodies running. And all of a sudden, here comes Beck, high stepping, breaking tackles down the sideline. I'm like, no way. I'm like, how did he get the ball? And so I start running down there because I'm like, he's going to score. And I wanted to be there in the end zone to celebrate because that's such an awesome play. And whenever you have a big play like that in special teams, it completely changes the game and, increases your odds to win significantly.
It was pretty, it was a fun game to watch, right? It's a fun game, and hopefully that momentum will carry over. They'll have their hands full when they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, but that is not a game that is beyond reach, right? If this team continues to do what they're doing, limit the mistakes, have some takeaways, they've got a shot. They definitely have a shot, and this home crowd is excited about what this new era of Texans football seems to be, and hopefully the Texans team will be able to deliver them a victory. Maybe they'll get some players back. Maybe Larry Tunsil's back. I'm not sure. Maybe Jalen Petrie's back. Maybe Denzel Perryman's back. Right? There's some guys banged up that would be helpful if they could get them back, but at least next man up that those guys can compete and on another level as well. I'm going to put a pause in talking about the Texans for a moment because that can always take over the conversation. But I want to hop over and talk a little baseball, right? This is the last week of the regular season of Major League Baseball. Next week, you're either in the playoffs or you're not. We'll know by Sunday, right? We'll know by Sunday. So the Houston Astros have been, there's no other way to say it, they've been awful at home. They were swept by the Kansas City Royals, one of the worst teams in baseball when you look at their record. That's behind them. There's nothing they can do. They can't go back and recapture that. That is how they ended their home stretch. They're on the road now, and they're in Seattle, and they're facing the Seattle Mariners team that is right there, that they are trying to get the spot that the Astros currently possess. So last night's 5-1 win in Seattle against Seattle's ace, Castillo, was really big. Justin Verlander looked like the Justin Verlander that made him a Cy Young Award winner last season. He threw 8 solid innings, and then Brian Abreu came in out of the bullpen and was able to shut it down. There was 1 run scored. That run is going to be attributed to Verlander, but the final was 5-1. And Seattle, listen, I get as a fan base, you want to support your team, but let me just show you guys this. Let me show you this, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts about it on the other side.
Nationals will have 2 runners on here with 2 outs.
Right, let me start it over.
Hits him. Hit him with a 3-2 pitch right near that elbow guard. Nationals will have 2 runners on here with 2 outs. Jeremiah Randall will come. Hits him. Hit him with a 3-2 pitch right near that elbow guard. Nationals will have 2 runners on here with 2 outs. Jeremiah Randall will come.
So here's why I wanted to show you that. So the Seattle Mariners are cheering because Jose Altuve was hurt. I played it a couple times because I want you to see what I saw. So it's so unfortunate. I was talking to somebody about this at the stadium last week. Altuve's gotten this unnecessary hate for something he didn't do, right? Jose Altuve is not one of the guys who cheated during the Astros cheating scandal. He's just not. It did not happen. And it's so unfortunate that that is what happens when he's on the road. He is such an amazing story in the game of baseball, right? He just really is. He is, they list him as 5 foot. I don't know. I saw somewhere recently he was listed at 5'8". Okay, that's not the truth. He's probably about 5'5.5", maybe. He plays the game the right way. He's got some, obviously some God-given ability, but he's not the guy that cheats. That's not what he does. That just isn't. And so for somebody to cheer because he was hurt, he was hit, which he could have been injured, he wasn't. But is that really what it takes? So Seattle Mariners, I hope you never make the playoffs. Your fans don't deserve to be there. Okay. With that said, I just thought that was awful and I wanted to share it because it's just it's just crazy. And so before they left, I got a chance. I talked to Dusty. I think this was from last Friday, and we were talking about how close this race is. And here is Dusty Baker talking about this race, which is going down to the end of the season.
Hey man, it's better not being close. You know what I mean? And I knew it was going to be close. I didn't know it was going to be this close, but I knew it was going to be more even. Just because some of the other teams have gotten better. I mean, they improved themselves. And it really hurt us to lose Garcia, to lose Akini, to lose Alvarez. I mean, that kind of even made it, closer than it probably would have been. But we are what we are. I mean, including Altuve, I mean, those guys, they missed a lot of games. And so our team responded the best they could.
He said it is better to be close than not to be close. Right? He said it's better than the alternative. And, I'm not even going to talk about the ridiculousness of the Dusty hate and the Maldi hate and how people were attacking Martin Maldonado's wife online. It's just so ridiculous. But you know what? This is what it reminds me. It makes me think of. Last week, over the last 2 weeks, I've done a few different television interviews talking about the fighting in the stadiums. I mean, I get that that's a story that people want to talk about because you see it and it's like, what is happening? People are fighting in the stands. And, I said, well, to me, it's just indicative of where we are, like what the climate is in society right now. People are on edge. People are taking liberties. People feel okay saying whatever they want, attacking people's families. And so when you do all of that, then it manifests into something that's even physical. Like we don't know how to just be fans and disagree and cheer for our teams or like who we like. We don't know that anymore, but we should, right? We should know it. We absolutely should know it. I always say sports is a microcosm of society, and it manifests on a bigger stage where people see it. What do we see at the highest levels of our leaders? Our political leaders, those are the people who we see all the time, fussing and fighting about foolishness, not being very honest, whatever the party is you like. I mean, there's enough blame to go around. I think there's one group that's worse at it, that's worse about it, but there's enough of it to go around where people are just they're not being good people. I mean, that may sound a little like hokey and, lollipops and rainbowish, but they're just not being good, decent people. And the examples are not being set. And so we don't know how to navigate. And I say I certainly do, but I mean, we collectively, how to navigate disagreements or places that we are. And so we act out. And that's what you're seeing at these games. And we should probably stop showing all the stories of it because it makes it more of a thing. What should happen? People should, if you're fighting at a game, you should be taken out of the stadium. You don't get to stay. Okay. That should just not be tolerated. And, and then you throw in alcohol with bad behavior. It's not a great combination. It is a recipe for disaster. That's what I think is happening. So, you know, people are taking these liberties and attacking people online because I don't like the way your husband played or the way you play, or, they're saying awful things about Dusty. And let's be clear, some of it's racist. I mean, there's no point in trying to hide it, right? There's no point in hiding it. So some of it is racist. And it's unfortunate. So you don't want the team to win because you say they win in spite of Dusty, but when they lose, it's because of Dusty. You sound ridiculous. Hey, Tony, I see you. Yes, I'm talking about the Astros right now. Listen, the Astros can absolutely get into the playoffs. If the season ended today, right, they would be in the playoffs, right? They currently hold the third spot in the wild card. There are 3 teams that go, okay? I'm going to pull it up right now, the standings. If my phone allows me. It looks like it doesn't want me to be great. Hold on. Of course, the Rangers are clearly in first place in the American League West by kind of a lot. Let's see, how much are they ahead? The Rangers are 2.5 games ahead of Houston. They finished the season with a series. The Rangers and the Mariners play each other. Right now, the Rangers are playing the Angels. Yeah, they should win that series. But here's the playoff standings right now. So the leaders in the American League, Baltimore is 97-59. Texas is 88-68. Minnesota is 83-73. In the wild card race, Tampa is in first, has the top spot in the race. Then there's Toronto, and that's Houston. Houston's a game and a half behind Toronto. They could be number 2 in the playoffs. They just got to get in, right, in the wild card. So to answer your question, yes, Tony, Houston definitely could creep into the playoffs. Seattle is a game and a half behind Houston. So Houston really needs to win this series against the Mariners. If they can take 2 out of 3, it gives them a bigger lead on the Mariners. And then the Mariners and the Rangers will end the season facing off against each other. If they could sweep the Mariners, even better, especially with the classless organization that they are. So they still got a shot. Listen, Verlander pitched lights out last night. The final was 5-1. Verlander's charged with that one inning, that one run, even though it's, he was out of the game when it scored, but he was in when the base runner got on base. So it was, I'm going to pull up last night's game and give you the line. It was classic Verlander. It was the kind of Verlander that you're reminded of, okay, this is why they went and got him this time of the year. Like, this is what you expect to see for Verlander. His line last night, he pitched 8 innings, had 1 earned 1. He threw 8 strikeouts and walked 1 player. Not bad. Luis Castillo who is the ace, if you will, for Seattle. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 5 runs, all of them earned, had 8 strikeouts, and had 1 walk. So they had 2 homers last night, one from Alvarez, who basically just picked the ball up almost out of the dirt. It's like a golf swing that he took deep. And then the other was Kyle Tucker. So it was exciting. It was exciting to watch. Yes, Framber and Javier are next. I was talking to a real baseball person recently, and we were talking about the difference in this pitching staff. And the difference in this Astros team, a lot of it is pitching. A lot of it has been starting pitching. And Framber and Javier have struggled at times. And so, Tony, you'll probably appreciate this. They're both kind of emotional pitchers, right? And so with all the changes that have been made for pitching in baseball this year, right? Like, Maldi can't just go out to the mound and say, hey, calm down, right? Because that's a mound visit and you're limited. And so things that they could do before to try to settle a player like a Framber Valdez or a Javier Christian, they're limited in what they can do. And so while people, obviously there's so much talk about Maldi and, he shouldn't be in there and in terms of what he does. And, his offense, his lack of offense outweighs whatever he does in terms of calling a game. I think it's because a lot of people don't really, really understand all of the intricacies of it. But I do think that we've seen a difference in players, especially like Javier Christian and Framber Valdez this year, because they have been, they're kind of emotional players. And Framber talked about it more last year when he was obviously a lot more consistent and his numbers were better. And he had this number of like all of these quality starts. He talked about working with, I'm going to call it a sports psychologist to help him manage his emotions. Because if you take that to the mound, it shows up in the way you pitch. So you're right. A sweep, Tony, would be awesome. It would be awesome. Thank you, Sanseria, for the compliment about my hair. And hello, Miss Binder. Welcome to Chalk Talk. It's always glad to have you in as a part of the show. And no, I'm not a referee, but I am able to give some good insight into things that are happening. All right, so here's another thing that I want to talk about today. The Houston Rockets will be, can you guys believe Houston Rockets training camp is next week? Like next Monday is media day, and then Tuesday they go to camp in Lake Charles or Lafayette. I forget which it is, but like it's basketball season, y'all. So this is like one of my favorite times of the year. You've got basketball season that will start next week. We are in the throes of baseball, right? We are going down to the wire. And I have been in Houston, so I've been able to cover a playoff baseball team for multiple seasons. I've covered an ALCS champion multiple times. I've covered a World Series contender in 2 of the last, 7 years. One of those years, last year, they won it. I mean, it's been a great run. And so for the people who are so down on Dusty, first of all, you're not being realistic about what this team, where this team is and who they are. And you just don't really get the game of baseball. I'm sorry to say it. You cannot allow your isms, right, to cloud your judgment. And that's unfortunately what happens. That's happening a lot of places. So that's happening. And it's football season, right? Football is just really getting underway. This is week 4 of the NFL. There's a new era of Texans football. I am encouraged by it. You guys know pulling for DeMeco and his staff and those young men over in the building. I do think that I think their general manager is not good at his job. I've said that. He may be a great person. I don't really know him personally, but in terms of what he does, the things that I know, I don't think he's good at it. And I don't think that they can really ever really excel with him. But that's neither here nor there. I think that's a case of winning with the coaching staff and the players working with what they have and just getting some things done. And hopefully, hopefully DeMeco will get what he needs to, really be able to field a team that what we're talking about, the Houston Texans, not just winning the division, because the AFC South, let's face it, is not one of the stronger divisions in football, but winning, a winning record, getting back to the playoffs, and eventually at some point, not this year, hold your horses, don't get too excited, getting to that second, third postseason game, getting to the AFC Championship, and ultimately getting to a Super Bowl and winning the championship. That's the goal. That's the goal. But this Texas organization and the organization before it, the Houston Oilers, never got there. So the Texans have some great opportunities. And I'm trying to see what my sister's talking about. Yeah, baseball is great with Dusty. Baseball is great with Dusty. Very good. I feel like my Chalk Talk journey is of kind of enlightening some people is working. That was very good. And you're right, Tony. It would be an AFC championship for the first time ever in this city. Like the Astros have won a championship. They've World Series. They've been in the ALCS multiple times. And the Houston Rockets have won 2 championships. I actually was fortunate to cover both of those championships in the 90s. Yes, I've done this for a while. But the football team has fallen short on more than one occasion. So perhaps this is the era things start to turn around. All right. It is. It is. I'm not sure what you mean, Sanseria. It is. Baseball is great. Look at that. I love it. See, this is the thing. Women can talk about sports too. All you got to do is learn a little bit. And then the other thing is you learn when you should just kind of chill. You learn when, okay, I've said enough. I don't need to say anymore. Right. So listen, I am going to be giving you more information over the coming weeks about a live Chalk Talk event. The tentative date is November the 12th when the Texans are on the road in Cincinnati. It'll definitely be a Texans road game because I cover all of their home games. And so when I get the details confirmed and the date, the location confirmed, which is really what will determine the date a bit, it will definitely be in November. So November the 12th, they play in Cincinnati against the Bengals. The other date I thought about was at the end of October when they're playing the Panthers in North Carolina. But yeah, I'm not really sure. We'll have to work on that. Tony asked, is there an update on KPJ issue? There's not really anything on that issue right now. Nothing's happened yet. I don't expect to see him at media day next week with the Houston Rockets, and I don't expect that he's going to be on this Rockets team or even playing in a league this year. I just don't think he will. But I don't know what from the legal part of what his issues are, where he is. I think he did make bail, but I'm not really sure. The KPJ story is the weekend of the championships in New York, of the U.S. Open championships. And I mentioned the U.S. Open, not that it has anything to do with it, just from a time perspective of when it was. He was arrested for allegedly for a domestic violence abuse case with his girlfriend. And he's alleged to have roughed her up pretty bad. She had a broken vertebrae. Oh, no. I mean, not vertebrae. Something was broken. She had broken bones, and she was apparently beaten badly, hit badly, or hurt. She had to go to the hospital. And here's what I'm surprised about, and not that we need to see it, but that there haven't been any pictures of any of it. And I'm just like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And so not that we need to see it, but usually there's always some picture somewhere, right? So no update, Tony. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens with her. But I'm curious to see what this Houston Rockets team is going to do under Ime Udoka in his first season. Media day should be interesting, right? He has had his own little bit of news over the summer. And so I'm sure that some of that will come up at media day. So we go from the Stephen Silas era, where perhaps the team wasn't, people didn't think Stephen Silas was the guy, but Stephen Silas, in terms of the person, the man he was, a man he is, he continues to be, was just, a good guy. He really was. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know what, Tony, that's a great thing. So the New York Jets, of course, lost Aaron Rodgers to start the season. They went out and basically gave the whole farm for Aaron Rodgers to go all in on trying to win a championship this year or next. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers went down with a torn, not ACL. What is it in the back of your ankle? Anyway, the thing that puts you out for quite a long time. It's a heck of a recovery. So he's out for the season, although he did post some cryptic message about a week ago, like he might come back, or I don't know, in Aaron Rodgers kind of speak, but don't anticipate him coming back this season. So they're back to Zach Wilson, the guy that nobody in the building really believes in. And so Tony is saying the Jets should give up picks for Davis Mills. All they have is picks because they don't have the money, right? They don't have the money to pay. So they, I guess it depends on whether or not they think Davis Mills. Do you think Davis Mills is better than Zach Wilson, Tony? Here, you answered before I even asked. Mills is competent and would have a ton of talent in New York. He is competent. I mean, he's come, each year he's gotten a little better. I think that obviously the Texans went out and got their quarterback of the future and CJ Stroud. And I think that Mills is serviceable is the word I would use. I don't know how much his upside is, but I do think that with Zach Wilson, it's just difficult because the players, while they're all saying the right things, listen, they checked out on him last year when he kind of showed who he was. And I don't really believe the people in the building believe in Zach Wilson. They're having to say all these things now because he's all they have. And probably one of the most famous Jets of all times, Joe Namath. I saw an interview with him on ESPN where he was like, yeah, it's hard to watch. He can't play. he needs to go. And he's just not good enough. I mean, those are some of my words, but he did say he needs to go. Those were the words of Joe Namath. But basically the other part, he was like, yeah, he's not good enough. People in the building don't believe in him. And I've seen enough. He said that. Joe Namath did say, I've seen enough. I don't need to see anything else. And he needs to be gone. So listen, we will see what happens, whether or not they make a move. And I thought about that. Like, would they make a move for Davis Mills? Because with that defense, which is really talented, the New York Jets defense, competent quarterback play could be helpful for them. It could give them a shot in that division, a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what they do and what they think about. I'm sure the GM has got to be giving it some thought and talking about it. And so we will know soon enough. A couple other things going on. Make sure that you follow me on all my platforms. I'll be posting some stuff from TJ Watt later today and tomorrow. He is, of course, going to be in town with the Steelers this week. And his brother, JJ Watt, will be going into the Texans Ring of Honor. That'll happen at halftime. And today is the kind of kickoff, if you will, about the Lombardi Award, the award that goes to the best college lineman. Takes place here in the city at the end of football season, collegiate football season. And so that's happening. And the college football championship, that's going on too. That's going to happen at NRG Stadium in January. So a lot of exciting stuff happening as it relates to sports over the next few months. Elections today. What elections today? Have I missed an election? Is there a local election today? If so, I am not aware of it. Let me see, Tony. But that's why, listen, you should make sure that you're always registered to vote. If you stay registered, you don't have to get registered. And if you find out there's an election in your area and you're like, oh, wait, I'm already registered, you can just go and vote. I'm trying to see, let me look and make sure that I haven't missed anything because Tony, I like to make sure that the Chalk Talk audience is, that's not right, is prepared. What? It's not giving me my state. Okay, here we go. Hold on. It's giving me Alabama, which clearly is not my state. I am in Texas. Let's see if there's anything in Texas today, Tony. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like there's anything today. I know that November the 7th is election day here. There's a constitutional amendment. There are local elections. But it doesn't look like there's anything today. I will tell you, though, that Tuesday, October 10th is the last day to register to vote for the November 7th in the November 7th election. So if you're not registered, you've got a little bit of time. Oh, the mayoral race, the elections are November the 7th. What is happening is there are some debates and forums going on so that you can look at the candidates and make your choice about who you want to lead your city if you live in Houston. There was one last night on Fox 26. I believe there's another one next week on October the 2nd. And there are probably other elections as well. but there are the mayoral election is November the 7th here in Houston. So, and yes, Sylvia says no. My sisters are both involved in the elections. They are poll workers, and so we appreciate them for the service. And thank goodness it hasn't gotten crazy here in terms of people working the polls like it is in other states. And I just pray that that continues. All right, so listen, we are out of time for today. Thank you so much, as always, for being a part of Chalk Talk. Follow me across all of my platforms. I'll be doing some updates on the Texans and the Astros throughout the week. Next week, as I mentioned, is Rockets Media Day, and they start training camp. And we'll have some other things going on. And remember, call your congressperson. Let them hear from you, because the idea of the government shutting down because they can't play nice and do work is a problem. And understand this, if the government shuts down and anybody who works in the government and gets a check will not get that check, your elected officials, your congressional people who can't get this done will continue to get their checks. I want to make that very, very clear, right? Continue to, they get paid. So let your Congress people know, let them hear from you. Let them know that you need them to get to do their jobs. Like, this isn't a favor. Do your job, get a budget, pass it so that the government does not shut down because you guys are playing politics with people's lives. That's what I say. Good morning, Ms. Binder. Thank you for being here. I said that earlier, Sissy. I know she's watching. I am so glad that she is watching. All right, we're out of time. That's going to do it for today. Remember, if you are not registered to vote, get registered. If you have not taken your COVID shot, there's a new COVID shot out. I'm going to encourage you to take it. It's not a political statement. It's just one of safety and security. Get the shot, people. It's also flu season. Take the flu shot. Make sure you're covered. The things that we can do to protect ourselves, we should. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Make it a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday right here on Chalk Talk.